I've been obsessed with Sarah Miller for 3 years, and finally, I snapped. I did something unforgivable. I fastened a silver chain around her ankle and told her, my voice cold, "You're never leaving me." The first month, she was defiant, all righteous fury, warning me to let her go. The second month, she started a band, silently allowing me to sleep beside her. The third month, she took a mile when I gave an inch, grilling me about why I was 5 minutes late home from work, accusing me of messing around with other women. Right now, she was sitting on the bed, her long fingers toying with the silver chain on her ankle. The corners of her eyes were a little red, but a faint knowing smile played on her lips. "Ethan," she said, her voice cool as she stared me down. "The office closes at 6. Even with rush hour traffic, it's a 20-minute drive home. Tops." A humorless chuckle escaped her, her red lips curving into a dangerous arc. "But you've been 5 minutes late 3 days in a row. So tell me, which little girl have you been screwing around with?" I swallowed hard, a knot of inexplicable anxiety tightening in my gut. I watched her nervously as she slowly leaned forward, her long legs parting as she knelt on either side of me, looming over me. Her eyes, still tinged with red, held a chilling smile. Her fingertips idly traced the silver chain. "Did you forget what I said yesterday?" she murmured, her voice deceptively soft. "For every minute you're late, we add another round." Her hand tightened, and she deftly looped the chain around my own ankle. "Maybe," she said, her tone flat, "this chain suits you better than me." My eyes flew wide with terror. I opened my mouth to explain, but she silenced me with a bruising kiss. My mind completely short-circuited. Who was the real psycho here? She was. She was supposed to be the unattainable Ice Queen. 2 months ago, I'd done the craziest thing in my entire life. I kidnapped my boss, Sarah Miller. It was the third year of my unrequited obsession with her. 3 years prior, she was a senior when I was a junior in college. After graduation, I swallowed my pride, called in every favor I had, and finally, through an internal referral, landed a job at her company. I thought just being near her, seeing her every day, would be enough. But the more I saw, the more I wanted. So, I decided to confess. But on the very day I worked up the nerve, I saw her standing close to some guy, a huge bouquet of roses in her arms. My grand plan was dead on arrival. Rage surged through me. In a flash, a wild, insane idea took root. I was going to take her home. Mine. So, I faked being sick and asked her to drive me home. Once we were at my door, I lured her inside with the promise of just one drink. Then, one beer was all it took to knock her out. Seriously, though, Sarah's alcohol tolerance was ridiculously low. I never met anyone from up north who was such a lightweight. It was almost embarrassing. While she was unconscious, I dragged her literally into the bedroom and, using a thin silver chain I'd bought ages ago, secured her by the ankle. But looking at her peaceful, sleeping face, I hesitated. I really wanted to spice things up, but she was out cold. No point if I was the only one into it. I'd have to wait until she woke up. An hour later, Sarah's eyelids fluttered. She slowly opened her eyes and glanced down at the chain on her ankle, her brow furrowing. "Ethan," she said, her voice dangerously calm, "are you illegally detaining me?" Meeting her dark, intense gaze, all my earlier bravado evaporated into a cold sweat. I was terrified, but I forced myself to sound tough. "You're never leaving me. Don't even think about escaping. This chain is titanium alloy. It could hold an elephant, let alone you." Sarah looked at me strangely, then asked bluntly, "You're into me?" Her directness hit me like a punch, and my face flushed crimson. "Why, yes, I've been into you for 3 years, but what about you? It's one thing if you don't like me back, but to be with another guy, I absolutely forbid it." I scrambled to recall lines from those dark romance novels, my face burning as I continued. "From now on, your eyes will only see me. Your mind will only think of me, and your body will belong only to me." But Sarah just stared at me, her voice as cold as a winter wind. "Impossible. I suggest you let me go immediately. I will never submit to this." Her gaze was so frigid it sent shivers down my spine. I threw out a few more empty threats and then beat a hasty retreat from the bedroom. Truth was, in that moment, I already regretted it. This was false imprisonment, a felony. Worse, Sarah was no delicate, ethereal ice queen. Rumor had it she was a Taekwondo black belt and had trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I had once seen her take down a guy who was harassing her with a single move and that titanium alloy chain. It was a cheap dog chain I picked up somewhere, barely thicker than my pinky finger. She could snap it with a little effort. Was she going to beat me to death? But God, I craved her. I gritted my teeth, my heart hammering. If this was how I died, at least it would be a glorious death. This psycho kidnapper role. I was committed. The first month, Sarah, true to her word, was unyielding. Every time I entered the bedroom, she'd stare at me coldly. A look that said she was picturing my funeral. Every time I tried to touch her, her icy glare made me recoil. Once, I snuck into the bedroom late at night, trying to gauge her mood. The moment my fingers brushed her hand, her eyes snapped open. Moonlight reflected in her pupils, making her look like a beautiful, newly awakened vampire. I yelled, terrified, and fled, never daring to try that again. But she didn't leave. She seemed to have actually bought my titanium alloy chain, like an elephant tethered by a flimsy stake. Thankfully, the chain was long enough, and the bedroom had an ensuite bathroom, so she could move around freely. Her basic needs weren't an issue. Since force wasn't working, I switched to a softer approach. Every day, I'd go into her room and talk her ear off, recounting the entire history of my secret crush on her. But she never responded. Whenever I mentioned a time I thought I had her full attention, she'd turn her head away as if the mere sight of me was repulsive. By the end of the month, I began to lose heart. Maybe you couldn't force love. Maybe the most I could ever do was watch her from afar, never truly possess her. I began to seriously consider it. Just take her back and then turn myself in. Deep down, I understood. How could someone like Sarah Miller ever fall for me? She was always the brightest star in any room, and I was just part of the dull gray background. Falling for Sarah Miller was the easiest thing in the world. That year, I had just joined the performing arts group prepping for a show. I was paired with a girl for a piano and violin duet. But the day before the performance, her boyfriend got jealous, threatened to break up with her, and forced her to pull out. I was suddenly without a partner, frantic and lost. Just then, Sarah Miller walked by. She picked up the violin, her tone casual. "Play. I'll accompany you." The performance was a massive success. As the final note faded, the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. Later, I found out she wasn't even in the arts group. She was the student council president and just happened to be passing by. She saw how pathetic I looked and decided to lend a hand. I went to thank her, full of gratitude, but she just gave a slight nod and walked away. It was in that moment I understood she was from a different world, high above, while I was just dust on the ground. To her, it was probably just a minor, insignificant blip in her life. But for me, from that day on, she was the only one I saw. Later, she graduated and started her own company, and I followed her there. But no matter how hard I tried to get closer, her attitude towards me remained lukewarm, like snow cupped in my hands. Right there, but impossible to warm. Even now, after I tied her up in my own home, she still wouldn't yield. I sighed. Fine, I thought. I'll go look at her a few more times tonight, get my fill, and then I'll let her go. But I didn't expect her to be awake this time. I'd barely reached the bedside when she grabbed my wrist. Her palm was ice cold, the chill instantly seeping into my bloodstream. Before I could pull away, Sarah opened her eyes. In the dead silence of midnight, the only sound was my own frantic heartbeat. Then I heard her say, her voice slightly trembling, "Ethan, you're sick." I don't know if it was my imagination, but I thought I saw a hint of exasperated disappointment in her eyes. Like she was frustrated I wasn't living up to some twisted potential. I opened my mouth, but no words came out, just stammers. She sat up, rubbing her temples, her tone weary. "You really want to sleep with me that badly?" I nodded, restoring with a surge of bravado. "Duh. Why else would I kidnap you?" Sarah looked at me, silent for a long moment, her expression like that of a debutante being forced into a compromising situation. Finally, she sighed a heavy, resigned sound. "Fine, you can move in and sleep here tonight." She paused, then warned, "But just sleeping. Nothing else." Happiness hit me. So suddenly I was dizzy, I nodded vigorously. Just sleeping is fine. If I'm already here, can anything else be far behind? Sarah shot me a sideways glance, her expression disdainful. Get your pillow. And just like that, from that night on, I finally got my wish, sleeping in the same bed as Sarah Miller. Every day, I woke up happy just looking at her. Even my dreams felt like they were tinged with pink. The only downside was that Sarah woke up every morning looking like a thundercloud. I guessed her body had compromised, but her mind still felt humiliated. Another month passed like this, and Sarah became increasingly irritable. From her initial indifference, she started micromanaging everything I did, even questioning what time I got off work. I was puzzled. The company was practically non-existent for her now. Why did she care about these things? But strangely, even though she was, for all intents and purposes, gone from the company, everything continued to run as usual, even expanding. Recently, she'd even hired a batch of interns because we were short-staffed. Among them was a young intern assigned to me, Chloe Davis. She was still in college, 5 feet 6 inches with a cute little mole on her bridged nose and long straight eyelashes that cast shadows when she looked down. Worst of all, she was a total sweetheart, constantly calling me Ethan in this syrupy way, always eager to learn and even pestering me with questions after work. Even though my heart belonged only to Sarah, who could say no to a pretty girl asking for help? So that day, for the first time, I was half an hour late coming home. The moment I walked in, I felt the heavy, oppressive atmosphere in the house. Sarah's face was darker than the night sky outside. When she brought me dinner, she plopped herself right onto my lap and buried her head in my shoulder. I thought she'd finally come around, and I was so flustered I nearly dropped my plate. But then she suddenly said, her voice cold, "Why do you smell like perfume?" I froze. Chloe's light, fresh scent wafted into my mind. It must have rubbed off when I was showing her how to use the office printer earlier. We've been standing pretty close. Did Sarah have the nose of a bloodhound? How would she smell that? Seeing my silence, she suddenly sneered. You talk about how much you like me every day, but you're tired of me in less than 3 months. Found some other woman out there. She got off my lap, a cold laugh escaping her. Her tone was chilling. Figures. Once you have something, you stop cherishing it. She turned to look at me, her eyes dark with unreadable emotions. Ethan, she said slowly, I've seen right through you. Wait, what's with the scorned lover act? I quickly explained, no, it's just the new intern is super eager to learn, so I was showing her how to use the printer. She doesn't know how to use a printer. Vertex solution standards are that low now. They're hiring idiots. Sarah's expression darkened further. She reached under her pillow, pulled out a cell phone, and said with cold eyes, "What's her name? I'll have HR fire her." My eyes widened. Wait, where'd you get a phone? Didn't I confiscate yours? Hold on. She had a phone. Then why hadn't she called for help? Sarah clearly froze for a second, her expression blank. Then she composed herself, tossed the phone aside, and the next moment she pounced, pinning me to the bed. The dim lamplight gleamed on her collarbones, shadows playing in the hollows, and my head was spinning. My earlier confusion about the phone vanished completely. Sarah knelt over me, a dangerous smile slowly spreading across her lips, a smile that sent chills down my spine. Somehow, she'd used the silver chain unfastened from her ankle to deftly secure my wrists, looping it around the bedpost. Her voice was flat. You were half an hour late home today. I'm going to have to punish you. After that, my relationship with Sarah became ambiguous. She never said anything, and I never asked. I was afraid that if I asked, I wouldn't get the answer I wanted. I was so used to chasing her, and loving someone too much often robs you of courage. Perhaps it was a case of lucky in love, unlucky in, well, work drama. The next day, as I was packing up to leave, Brenda Walker, my team lead, leaned against my desk. I frowned. Ever since she found out I'd bought a condo outright, paying cash, she'd been relentlessly targeting me. She was from a small town, and buying property in the city on her salary wasn't realistic. So lately, she'd been clinging to me like a leech, always finding excuses to ask me out. Today, she smiled. Ethan, there's this new tapas place that just opened downtown. How about you give me a chance to get to know my superior better and treat me to dinner tonight? I was incredibly annoyed, and a hint of impatience must have shown on my face. Sorry, I have plans tonight. Brenda's eyes narrowed. What plans? Do you have a girlfriend? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. But Brenda, unfazed, pressed on. Who are you kidding? I've never seen your girlfriend. Feeling pressured to have dinner with me? Don't be nervous. I'm actually pretty easygoing. I couldn't be bothered to argue and stood up to leave, seeing I wasn't taking the bait. Her face fell instantly, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Ethan, so what if you bought a damn condo? Let me tell you, I could buy a place anytime I want. That dump you bought is in the suburbs, you know. I wouldn't even glance at it. If I buy, I'm buying downtown. I ignored her and walked straight out. Just as I was about to step into the elevator, she suddenly grabbed my arm. I was about to shake her off when a slender, pale hand shot out and coldly pried her fingers from my arm. So jealous of him buying a place. Maybe you should try selling yourself. Brenda froze. I turned my head and saw it was Chloe. She swept a dismissive glance over Brenda and sneered. Looking at you. You'd probably have to pay someone to take you. Brenda's lips trembled with rage. She struggled, but couldn't break free. She wanted to curse Chloe out, but was so thoroughly shut down she couldn't utter a word. Finally, she stormed off, her face livid and humiliated. I looked at Chloe, slightly stunned. Thank you, Chloe, whose face had been etched with anger and coldness just moments before, blinked and instantly transformed back into the bright-eyed college student. Her tone was light. No problem, Ethan. You're too nice to deal with women like that. So let me put her in her place for you. She glanced outside. It's raining. Wanted to give you a ride home. I thought for a moment and nodded. Chloe's car was an older model Honda. It looked like it had seen better days. I buckled my seatbelt and couldn't help saying, seriously, thanks for today, but Brenda's the petty type. I'm worried she'll target you now. Chloe, steering with one hand, smirked. You think I'm afraid of her targeting me? I subconsciously glanced at her wrist and noticed she was wearing an expensive-looking watch. It probably cost more than 10 of those Hondas. People at the office had already been speculating if she was just experiencing corporate life. After all, you could fake poverty, but you couldn't fake that innate sense of ease and quiet luxury she exuded. Thinking about it, if her family really did have connections, then Brenda was a non-issue. I relaxed, leaning back in the passenger seat. Just then, Chloe suddenly turned her head, looking at me with a playful smile. Ethan, going home so early? Are you really going to see your girlfriend? My throat tightened. I didn't know how to describe my relationship with Sarah. I couldn't exactly say she was the person I was illegally detaining with whom I had a physical relationship, but no official title, could I? I just mumbled, a friend. Chloe chuckled, her tone thoughtful. Good. I was worried. I didn't have a chance. I wasn't oblivious to Chloe's interest in me. When she first joined as a management trainee, the old hands worried she'd eventually take a leadership spot and all refused to mentor her. She ended up being assigned to me. These past few weeks, I genuinely put effort into teaching her, and slowly, she'd become increasingly clingy. Every day, she'd find countless excuses to pop into my office. Even my colleagues had noticed. Someone had even jokingly asked me, "Is Chloe after you?" But the one I liked was Sarah. As pretty as the college girl was, I could only appreciate her from a distance. I waved my hand dismissively. Vertex doesn't allow office romances. Besides, there's a 3-year age gap. You should use that energy on some younger guys. Don't waste your time on me. Chloe just smiled at me, not saying a word. When we reached my building, I was about to unbuckle my seatbelt when she suddenly leaned over. Her familiar light perfume wafted around me, carrying a hint of ambiguous intimacy. The seatbelt was jammed. We were too close. I froze, not daring to move. A few seconds later, she unbuckled it, her lips curving into a slight smile. Ethan, not going to invite me up for a cup of tea? Her eyes held an undisguised expectation, probably because it was too warm in the car. The flush on my face hadn't subsided. I practically tumbled out of the car door, muttering, "Not convenient today. Next time, thanks." Then I fled up the stairs like a coward. Originally, I had time. I returned home perfectly today. But because of this little incident, I was 5 minutes late again. The moment I walked in, I saw Sarah standing at the top of the stairs, looking down at me. I instantly knew this was bad. One extra round for every minute. I'd be at this until the small hours of the morning. My brain raced. I suddenly grabbed her shoulders and said angrily, "You giving me a hard time? Do you know I was harassed at work today?" Sarah froze, her brow furrowing slightly. "Who harassed you?" I looked away, my voice cold. "Brenda from marketing. She found out I bought a place and wouldn't stop pestering me to take her to dinner." Sarah swung her legs off the bed and casually picked up her phone. A few seconds later, the call connected. Before the person on the other end could speak, she said coldly, "There's someone in marketing named Brenda Walker. Tell her to pack her things and be gone by tomorrow, and inform all our partner companies that any of them who hire her will have their contracts terminated." She hung up, turned around, her gaze falling on me. Her tone was calm, almost too calm. "If something like this happened before, why didn't you tell me sooner?" I mumbled, "What exactly are we? What's the point of telling you, Sarah?" She fell silent, her expression hardening. In that instant, Chloe's question from earlier today flashed through my mind. Lowering my gaze, I said softly, "Sarah, were we—" "What? What are you really thinking?" She was willing to play this imprisonment game with me here, willing to share countless intimate moments, but she never defined what we were. Maybe because I was already in a bad mood today, my mind was a mess, and some words finally uncontrollably spilled out. Perhaps she was just bored, looking for some amusement with me. If she really had feelings for me, why would she always keep things so vague, so undefined? I lacked courage because I liked her too much. What about her? Was it because she didn't like me at all? A bitter taste suddenly rose in my throat. I reached out and tossed the silver chain, long since removed from her, onto the bed. "You don't have to answer me right now. If our feelings are mutual, I hope that when I come home from work tomorrow, you'll still be here. If you're not interested in me, then you can leave tomorrow." After saying that, I turned and somewhat miserably left the room. It wasn't that I didn't want to say it to her face, but just looking at her, a wave of fear washed over me. She was Sarah Miller. She was the golden girl, the ice queen, the woman everyone looked up to. She was never short of men chasing her, many of whom were far better catches than me. What did she possibly like about me? If she told me to my face that she didn't like me, I couldn't bear it. That night, neither of us spoke another word. The house was eerily quiet, so still it felt like the air itself had solidified. Only the occasional faint rustle from the bedroom broke the silence, like a secret whisper in the dark. I didn't sleep a wink. The next day, I was a wreck, completely unable to focus on work. Unfortunately, it was an exceptionally busy day. My boss had us contacting clients, and I spent the entire day on the phone, my throat raw, my head about to explode. It wasn't until quitting time that I finally felt a sliver of relief. Dragging my exhausted body to my front door, I took a deep breath, my hand hovering over the doorknob. I'd actually wanted to delay this moment, but every minute of procrastination only made me more anxious, unable to sit still. In the end, I decided to just come back, rip the Band-Aid off. Short-term pain was better than long-term agony. Besides, it wasn't entirely impossible that Sarah might like me. In the dead of night, we had whispered and tangled together countless times. She would murmur my name in my ear. At least in those moments when we held each other tight, I felt she loved me. I closed my eyes and pushed the door open. The living room was silent, deathly silent. The silence was so profound, it was almost audible. My blood seemed to turn to ice in an instant. The next second, I bolted into the bedroom. It was empty. Only a dull silver chain lay on the bed. The comforter was neatly folded, the sheets smooth as if no one had ever slept there. The dim, late afternoon light filtered into the room, dust motes dancing in the air. I stood alone in this fractured light, slowly pressing a hand to my heart. Strange, there was no wound, so why did it hurt so much? It felt as if that sentimental thing in my chest had shattered, leaving behind only cold, lifeless fragments. "Fine." A cold voice suddenly echoed in my mind. "You got to sleep with her for this long. You were already punching above your weight. What more could you ask for? We were never from the same world anyway." I looked down, reaching for the silver chain. It had long since lost its warmth, feeling like a shard of ice in my palm. Sarah was gone. She didn't even go back to the company. All her contact numbers were disconnected. She was really avoiding me. She had truly, completely vanished from my world. That night, I lay alone in the bed she had slept in for 3 months. When morning came, I blocked her on everything. I tried so hard to convince myself, but those late-night embraces, that warmth, it was all fake. From beginning to end, I was just a clown. Sarah Miller had never liked me. Not even a little bit. That day, the summer rain came without warning. The moment I left work, a torrential downpour began. I didn't have an umbrella, couldn't get a rideshare, so I just started walking home in the rain. Passing by the high school, I saw a young couple clearly skipping class or in some puppy love drama. The boy took off his school jacket and held it over the girl's head. They huddled close together and dashed into the downpour. Nice. 2 people in the rain. That's romantic. 1 person in the rain. That's just pathetic. The rain fell harder, nearly blinding me. But maybe this was good. This way, no one could tell if it was rain or tears on my face. So embarrassing. I wasn't a teenager anymore. Yet here I was, a mess over a breakup. Just as I was haphazardly wiping the water from my face, a car horn blared through the rain. A black G-Wagon pulled up smoothly beside me. The door opened and Chloe, wearing a tank top and shorts, shielded her head with her hand and dashed into the rain, yelling, "Ethan, get in." I climbed into the car, took the towel Chloe handed me, and as I dried my hair, I glanced at the logo on the plush fabric, silent for a few seconds. If I remember correctly, this designer hoodie she'd given me, I'd seen in a boutique last month. Retail price, $200, almost 2 months of my salary. I looked at Chloe, who seemed completely unconcerned, a complicated expression on my face. "Do you have any idea how much this hoodie costs?" Chloe glanced at it casually. "No idea. It got cold last week when I was home, so I just grabbed it at the mall." Damn rich people. She could just grab a $2,000 hoodie from a department store, while I had to check the price tag on underwear. Chloe noticed my silence, turned to look at me, and her previously uplifted lips suddenly drooped. "Who upset you?" I gave a bitter smile and said softly, "No one. No one upset me. Just got my heart broken, that's all." After a pause, I laughed self-deprecatingly. Not even really heartbroken. More like I confessed my feelings and got rejected. Chloe didn't say anything. After a moment, she reached out and gently touched the back of my hand. "Then it's her loss. Ethan, check my pants pocket." I hesitated, trying my best not to touch her, and reached in her pocket, pulling out a small velvet-lined box. Opening it, I saw a tie clip inlaid with tiny diamonds, exquisite and beautiful. "I saw it the other day and thought it would suit you." She smiled at me, her eyes so gentle, it made my heart skip a beat. I was stunned for a moment, then quickly shook my head. "No, this is too expensive. I can't accept it." Chloe tilted her head, a soft laugh escaping her. "Consider it a thank you gift for teaching me all these days. Don't refuse me." She paused, then said softly, "I'm resigning tomorrow to go back to school." I froze. "Will you come back?" The moment the words left my mouth, I realized how stupid the question was. A rich girl like Chloe, her family definitely owned businesses. Why would she come work for someone else's company? Sure enough, she glanced at me and smiled. "Ethan, are you going to miss me?" Her smile faded and she said softly, "After I graduate, I have to go back home and work, so I probably won't be coming back to Vertex." A strange melancholy settled over me. The time I'd spent with Chloe had been easy, pleasant. The thought of not seeing her again left an unexpected ache. Chloe winked at me, her tone light. "But I'll still come find you to hang out." When we got to my building, she walked me to the entrance. I was about to go in when she suddenly called my name. I turned back. She took out the tie clip and gently fastened it to my tie. She focused on adjusting it, her proximity unnerving. We were so close I could count each of her long eyelashes. A step away, the rain poured down. In this small space, it was just the 2 of us. Chloe looked up at me, her light amber eyes reflecting the dim light. She whispered, "Ethan." A sharp voice shattered the brief tranquility. "What do you 2 think you're doing?" I whipped around and saw Sarah standing in the rain. She held a black umbrella, rainwater streaming down its edges. The breeze billowed her skirt, revealing a glimpse of her pale, slender calf. She wore a tailored black pantsuit, her gaze cold behind gold-rimmed glasses. A glint of mockery reflected on the lenses. Her voice was crisp, laced with sarcasm. "No wonder you weren't answering my calls or texts. You found someone new." She curled her thin lips into a cold, resentful smile. "Ethan, you're really something. Didn't you say you liked me? Or do you say that to everyone?" I was stunned. Then anger surged through me, my knuckles wide as I clenched my fists. "Sarah, are you insane? You're the one who left. Now you're blaming me? What? If you don't like me, am I supposed to just hang around you like some pathetic fool?" Sarah frowned, her voice low. "I left because my father was in a car accident in the States and was hospitalized." She looked up at me, a disbelieving chill in her voice. "I called you. You didn't answer. I texted you. You didn't reply. Wasn't it because you'd moved on to her?" She extended a slender finger, pointing at Chloe, who stood silently nearby. I was dumbfounded. That day, a strange number had indeed called me a few times. But my information had been leaked recently, and I've been getting all sorts of scam calls about loans. I assumed it was just another one and ignored it. I frowned, immediately pulling out my phone. Sure enough, in my spam folder, I found a text from an unknown number. "Ethan, my dad was in a car accident in the U.S. I have to go there first. I've thought carefully about what you said. I'm not just playing around with you, but that's something I don't want to say so casually over text. I want to come back and tell you in person." My heart plummeted, my fingers trembling slightly. "You changed your number?" I asked, my voice shaky. Sarah gave a cold laugh, her tone weary. "My main phone was disconnected. This is my secondary number." I clutched my phone tightly, scrambling to explain. I honestly didn't see it. Unknown numbers get filtered into spam, but she just looked at me, her expression as cold as if she were looking at a stranger. "Ethan, I was supposed to stay with my dad for another month, but the moment he was out of critical condition, I came back." Her voice was trembling, her eyes red-rimmed. She bit her lip and asked in a low, strained voice, "Do you have any idea what I've been through these past 2 weeks? I tried to message you on WhatsApp only to find out you deleted and blocked me. I sent you texts. You never replied once. I was frantic. I caught the earliest flight back. I thought this was just a misunderstanding." She paused slowly, turning her head to look at Chloe, her voice as sharp as a razor's edge. "Unfortunately, I was wrong. There was no misunderstanding. It's just that you found someone new." She let out a low laugh, her voice so faint it seemed like it would dissipate in the next breath. "Misunderstanding? There was no misunderstanding at all." She looked at me, her eyes cold. "Then tell me, what were you two doing just now?" "I was only gone for 2 weeks." I opened my mouth, but not a single word came out. Honestly, given the atmosphere just moments ago, I couldn't deny it hadn't been suggestive. Sarah didn't spare me another glance. She turned and got in her car. A black Rolls-Royce sped off into the rain, disappearing completely from my sight. "She's the one you confessed to who rejected you?" After a long silence in the car, Chloe asked softly. I looked down, nodding glumly. Then I reached up, unfastened the tie clip, and handed it back to her. "Here's your gift back. I really can't accept it, but thank you." Chloe froze. Then a bitter smile touched her lips. So heartless. She took the tie clip, her eyes dimming. "All right, I'll take it back this time," she said softly. "Hopefully next time you won't refuse me again." I was already lost in my own turmoil, completely oblivious to the deeper meaning in her words. Afterward, we said goodbye, and I went upstairs. It was an overcast evening, and the apartment was dark and oppressive. I sat alone on the edge of the bed, looking at the text message Sarah had once sent me. She said she liked me, so she did like me too. I slowly buried my face in my knees, my heart feeling like it had been crushed. I admit when I saw Chloe leaning in close earlier, my heart had hesitated for a moment. I thought, there's always someone in the world who likes me. If Sarah doesn't like me, then I won't like her anymore either. But while she was across the ocean thinking of me, what was I doing when I was too afraid to wait? What was she feeling? I was such an idiot. I messed everything up. The next day, Sarah returned to the company. I both wanted to see her and dreaded seeing her. We bumped into each other in the elevator. She walked past me without a glance, not even a flicker of her eyes in my direction. Her attitude was clear. She truly wanted nothing more to do with me. I agonized for days, wondering how to apologize to her. Just as I was considering whether to just barge into her office and beg for forgiveness on my knees, a colleague nudged me, wiggling his eyebrows. "Ethan, did you hear? Our boss is getting married." My hands froze mid-task. "What?" He grinned, handing me his phone. It was just posted on the company's social media. "She's engaged to the youngest son of the Athenan Corporation." In a photo on the screen, the man was tall and handsome, the woman exquisite and beautiful. They stood side by side, a perfect couple. Even I had to admit, they looked great together. The world suddenly went quiet. Without a word, I walked towards Sarah's office. I had to ask her myself, but just as I reached her office door, a man walked out. He wore an impeccably tailored suit, exuded a sharp aura, walked with confident strides, and had a smile on his face. He was holding Sarah's hand, fingers intertwined, his tone gentle. "I'll come see you again tomorrow then. Don't forget to eat properly." Sarah stood behind him, her eyes full of a soft smile. "Okay," she said gently. "Drive safe. Text me when you get home." Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. It was a side of her I'd never seen, except in bed. She'd never been like this with me. I froze, staring at the scene, feeling as if my blood had turned to ice. The man noticed me, frowned slightly, and asked, his tone questioning, "Sarah, who is this?" Sarah's gaze finally landed on me. She just glanced at me coolly, her eyes distant, without a trace of warmth, just someone unimportant. With that, she looped her arm through the man's and brushed past me. I stood rooted to the spot, as if someone had clubbed me over the head. My feet felt like they were encased in ice. I couldn't take a single step. The blood in my heart felt like it had been instantly drained. Otherwise, how could I not even hear it beating? Someone unimportant. Yes, I was just someone unimportant. Until a colleague walked by, clapped me on the shoulder, and chuckled. "Ethan, what's up? Need to see Ms. Miller?" She just saw her fiancé off. "Maybe come back in a bit." Fiancé. I looked down, gently touched my chest, and managed a weak smile. But even I knew how pathetic and ridiculous that smile looked. "It's nothing. I don't need to see her anymore." The next day, I submitted my resignation. My manager and colleagues tried to persuade me to stay, asking why I was leaving when I was doing so well. I was silent for a long time, finally saying, "Only because the reason I was here is gone." I had joined this company for Sarah. Now she was engaged. It was time for me to leave. On my last day, I ran into Sarah at the elevator. She was, as always, in a chic business suit, her aura cool, distant like an ice queen, showing no trace of the woman who had once been chained to my bed. She glanced at the small box of my belongings in my hand, her voice flat, devoid of any emotion. "You're leaving?" I nodded, not speaking. She tilted her head slightly, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips, her tone laced with a hint of sarcasm. "Ethan, you really are something else." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I didn't know what she meant by that, and I couldn't be bothered to guess anymore. Things had come to this point. She wasn't going to give up an advantageous marriage for me. What was the point of dragging this out? It would only make me look even more pathetic. So, with the last shred of my dignity, I said to her, "I wish you both a lifetime of happiness." She just stared at me, unblinking, saying nothing. The elevator arrived quickly. I turned and left, but her intense gaze burned into my back, never wavering. News of Sarah's engagement spread quickly, even making the local papers. The picture showed them as a handsome, accomplished couple, a match made in heaven. The engagement party was set for June. As for me, I don't know how I got through those days. I frantically sent out resumes, desperately found things to do, anything to keep myself from being idle. Because the moment I stopped, I would remember the bedroom that once belonged to her, now locked, had become a forbidden zone in my apartment. The bedding we had shared, tangled in countless embraces, I'd thrown it all away, as if doing so could discard the memories along with them. During this time, Chloe often came to find me. "There's a new bubble tea place downtown. Huge lines. I want to try it. Want to come?" A new barbecue joint just opened on the west side. "Heard it's amazing. You in?" At first, I refused every time, even bluntly telling her, "I'm not looking to date right now." But she would always just smile and reply, "That's okay. I'll try again next time. Maybe you'll say yes then." After so many attempts, I felt too bad to keep refusing her. So, we went out a few times. I had to admit, young women have a kind of magical charm. When I was with her, my mood genuinely seemed to lighten. When she held out a caramel apple for me to take a bite, I truly forgot all my sorrows. But at night, back home alone, those memories would return like shadows, making me unable to close my eyes without thinking of them. This day, Chloe invited me out again. Lots of seagulls at the beach lately. Want to go feed them? We walked barefoot on the sand, the salty sea breeze fresh with moisture, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks in our ears. I suddenly felt much lighter. "Ethan, what kind of woman do you like?" Chloe tilted her head, looking at me with a hint of playful curiosity in her eyes. I thought for a moment and said casually, "Someone who looks great in a pantsuit, appears very proper on the surface, but is actually secretly passionate. Someone I could talk to for hours, preferably wears gold-rimmed glasses." Before I could finish, an image of someone had already materialized in my mind. I froze. A couple not far away was drawing hearts in the sand, laughing and chasing each other. Finally, tired from their play, they sat side by side on the beach. The sea breeze gently rustled the girl's long hair. She suddenly tilted her head and asked, What if we break up someday?" The boy paused, silent for a moment, then gently took her hand. I looked down at the grains of sand in my own palm, lost in thought. "Then I'll win you back." The boy tilted his head slightly, thought seriously for a moment, then added with a smile, "And if I can't win you back, then I'll keep trying until I do." "Ethan, actually," Chloe seemed to want to say something, but my mind was in turmoil, unable to process anything. Just then, the distant church bells began to chime. It belatedly hit me. Today was Sarah's engagement day. Another man would put a ring on her finger, vowing to love her forever. She would share a bed intimately with someone else, having nothing more to do with me from now on. The sea breeze tousled my hair. My heart felt like it was being violently squeezed, filled with an indescribable emotion. In this moment, I wanted to see Sarah. Once the thought surfaced, it was uncontrollable. I abruptly turned my head. "Sorry, something urgent came up. I have to go." Chloe just looked at me quietly, her gaze complex. After a moment, she asked softly, "Are you going to find Sarah?" I nodded. She lowered her lashes, silent for a long time, finally revealing a resigned smile. "It's hard to get a cab to the church from here. I'll drive you." I was stunned, not knowing what to say, only managing an awkward thank you. She sighed softly. "Don't thank me. If she ever treats you badly, come back to me." All the way there, I was frantic. I was afraid I'd be late, afraid the engagement ceremony would already be over. Chloe floored it, parking the car right at the church entrance. I jumped out and sprinted into the church. I never run so fast in my life, but I just wanted to be faster, even faster, so I could see her sooner. I shoved the heavy doors open. They slammed against the wall with a loud bang. My ragged breathing echoed in the vast, empty church. Soft light filtered through the stained glass rose window, falling on the priest's white robes, and beside him stood Sarah. Her figure was bathed in a gentle halo of light, like a person in a painting. I stared wide-eyed, transfixed. But besides her and the priest, there was no one else in the church. No guests, no groom. I stood frozen, my mind a chaotic mess. Was I early or was I too late? Had everything already ended? But if it was over, where was the groom? Just as I was fumbling, completely at a loss, Sarah suddenly broke into a smile of profound relief. She looked at the priest and said softly, "My fiancé has arrived. We can begin." I was utterly dumbfounded. "Wait a minute," I stammered, my brain completely failing to process. Aren't you getting engaged to the heir today?" Sarah walked over to me, gently took my hand, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "He and I just have a business arrangement. He didn't want to listen to his family and marry someone he didn't love. So I invested in his startup, helped him build his business so he could break free from their control. And she raised an eyebrow, was supposed to pretend to be my fiancé in front of you. I was speechless. You set me up? Sarah chuckled, but her eyes were serious. What else, Ethan? I kept waiting for you to come to me, but instead I got your resignation. She tilted her head slightly, her tone flat. I figured if I didn't do this, you wouldn't have come. I was so angry I almost laughed. Then why didn't you just confine me yourself? Sarah looked down at me, a smirk on her face. You were the one cozying up to another woman right in front of me. You think I'd lower myself to chase after you? Do I have no pride? Fortunately, you didn't disappoint me. I was practically sputtering with laughter and indignation. What if I hadn't come today? Sarah was silent for a long time. After a while, she said softly, then I would have thought of another way. Her gaze suddenly softened. She slowly reached out, holding a diamond-studded ring out to me. Consider this a loan later. You'll have to buy me one to replace it. My throat tightened, my heart a chaotic drum. The priest beside us smiled warmly. Young man, why are you still hesitating? Sarah looked at me deeply, her expression earnest. Ethan, you still owe me an apology, but I also owe you something. I like you a lot. I jerked my head up, staring at her. She sighed softly and continued. Actually, I noticed you a long time ago, but my father cheated on my mother when I was little, and it led to her depression and suicide. So, for all these years, I've been very resistant to relationships. I stared at her, a shock wave running through me. Thinking back, it was true. I'd never seen her date anyone. Not only had she not dated, but there wasn't even a single man she was particularly close to. For a while, people even secretly speculated if she was into women. I gave a bitter smile. If she hadn't played so hard to get, I wouldn't have come up with such a harebrained scheme as kidnapping her. Sarah's gaze met mine, so intent it was impossible to look away. I was always afraid my partner would betray me, and I was afraid I'd become like my father, the kind of person I despise most. She let out a soft breath, a small smile playing on her lips. But now I figure out, she looked at me, her tone deliberate. I am certain I will not betray you, and I will always be good to you, and I will make you stay by my side forever. She took my hand and asked slowly, So, Ethan, will you marry me? My eyes suddenly stung. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would explode. She was proposing. Sarah was proposing to me. My hand trembled as I reached out, took the ring, and carefully slid it on her finger. Her ring finger, it seemed, was made to wear my ring. My voice was hoarse. I will. 2 months later, Sarah and I got married. She was mostly the one in a hurry, saying if we didn't get married soon, she was afraid I'd go out and find some other sisters or something. I verbally agreed. Of course not, but inwardly thought. Her possessiveness was more binding than any marriage certificate. Chloe came to the wedding. She wore a pale blue gown, held a glass of champagne, and stood in a corner, glaring at me resentfully. She had dark circles under her eyes, clearly from a sleepless night. Ethan, what does she have that I don't? She's an old woman. Is she younger and prettier than me? There was a petulant pout in her eyes as she said this. I chuckled, took Sarah's hand, our fingers intertwining, palms pressing together. Then I looked at Chloe and said, enunciating each word, but I just like her, no matter if she's older than anyone, colder than anyone, harder to get than anyone. I just like her. Chloe faltered, then sighed in exasperation, pulling a small, exquisite box from her pocket. She smiled, a hint of resignation in her voice. The tie clip from before. You wouldn't take it then. Now, as a wedding gift, you can accept it, right? I reached out and took the box, saying softly, Thank you. She shook her head, a playful curve to her lips. Don't thank me. If she ever treats you badly, come find me. I'll be waiting. Sarah sneered. You can wait until hell freezes over. You won't get him. She gripped my wrist tightly, pulling me slightly behind her, as if staking her claim. Chloe glanced at her, pursed her lips, and took a defiant sip of her champagne. Fine, you too. I'll just pretend I don't see it. After the wedding, Sarah moved into my place. I stared at her, utterly bewildered. Are you nuts? You have a mansion in the hills, and you want to live in my tiny, less than 1,000 square foot apartment. She ignored me and walked straight into the bedroom. A moment later, she came out, wrapped around her wrist, unmistakably that silver chain. She smirked. I believe you still owe me 5 hours. A jolt of alarm shot through me. I sucked in a sharp breath. Wait, I said in panic. Why are you dredging up ancient history? We're married. The past should stay in the past. Sarah narrowed her eyes, a dangerous smile playing on her lips. Say one more word and we add another round. Honey, I was wrong. But it was too late. She definitely pushed me onto the bed, raised her wrist, and the silver chain swayed, emitting a crisp, clinking sound. She looked down at me, the smile on her lips tinged with danger. This time, let's see where you can run. End.